Imagine walking through a stone corridor, lit only by flickering torches. The air feels heavy. The silence is absolute. Ahead of you, a motionless figure watches your every step. A human body, a jackal's head, dark eyes, alert, ancient. He doesn't speak. He judges. You are no longer among the living, and not everyone who arrives here is allowed to move on. So who is Anubis, really? The guardian of the dead, or something far older and far darker than death itself? Long before the pyramids became ruins, before pharaohs turned to dust, before the word Egypt even existed as we know it today, the Egyptians already believed that death was not the end. To them, dying was simply crossing a threshold, a dangerous passage, filled with trials, traps, and unseen beings. And in that uncertain space between life and the afterlife, one name echoed in whispers: Anubis. While gods like Ra ruled the skies and Osiris reigned over the dead, Anubis walked in the shadows. He did not rule. He did not save. He did not punish for pleasure. Anubis watched. His origins trace back to the pre-dynastic period of ancient Egypt, around 3200 BC, when funerary practices were still simple, yet deeply spiritual. At that time, the dead were buried directly in the desert sand, and jackals, drawn by the scent of bodies, roamed the graves at night. That's where fear was born, and reverence along with it. To protect the dead from these scavengers, the Egyptians began to see the jackal not just as a threat, but as a supernatural guardian. And from that image emerged Anubis, the god who watches over tombs, protects bodies, and guides souls. Over time, Anubis became the lord of mummification, the one who governed the secret rituals capable of preserving the body for eternity. Every linen wrap, every sacred oil, every word spoken during embalming, all of it was done under his protection. Because to the Egyptians, a poorly prepared body meant a soul condemned to oblivion, and Anubis did not allow mistakes. When a man's heart stopped beating, the real journey began. According to funerary texts, like the Book of the Dead, the soul had to cross the Duat, the realm of the dead, a place filled with rivers of fire, hybrid creatures, magical gates, and silent judgments. And Anubis waited at the very beginning of that path. Picture the scene carved into the walls of tombs. The soul of the deceased, confused and still clinging to memories of life, is led by Anubis into the Hall of Two Truths. The chamber is vast and dark, held up by columns that vanish into shadow. At the center of the room, a scale. On one side, the heart of the dead. On the other, the feather of Mat, the symbol of truth and justice. Anubis holds the scale with steady hands. He does not tremble. He does not hesitate. Because there is no room for lies here. Every sin, every secret, every choice made in life, it all carries weight. If the heart is heavier than the feather, the soul is given no second chance. Waiting nearby is Ammit, the devourer of souls, a creature made of crocodile, lion, and hippopotamus. She does not punish, she erases. Those devoured by Ammit cease to exist forever. No heaven, no hell. Only eternal nothingness, and Anubis watches in silence. Curiously, although Osiris is the final judge, it is Anubis who conducts the most important ritual. He is the psychopomp, the guide of souls, the bridge between worlds, the presence that ensures the passage is fair. But here's where things turn unsettling. In older texts, Anubis did not serve Osiris. He was the lord of the dead. Only later, when the cult of Osiris grew stronger, was Anubis demoted to the role of guardian and executor of sacred rites. Even so, his power never vanished. It simply became quieter. Some Egyptologists believe Anubis represents something even deeper, the human fear that, even after death, we are still being watched, not by a merciful God, but by an impartial one. A God who does not love, does not hate, does not forgive. He only weighs. And maybe that's why his image has survived for thousands of years untouched. Because deep down, everyone fears the same question. What if someone is waiting for us on the other side and knows exactly who we really were? The deeper scholars dig into funerary texts, the more disturbing Anubis becomes. Because he wasn't just a guide, he was the keeper of forbidden knowledge. During mummification rituals, only chosen priests were allowed to invoke his name. These men wore jackal masks, not as symbols, but as vessels. It was believed that, in that moment, Anubis was watching through them. Every incision made in the body, every organ removed, every word whispered in ancient tongues. Nothing could be done without his approval. There are records suggesting that mistakes in these rituals didn't just doom the soul, they attracted the god's wrath. Desecrated tombs, poorly prepared bodies, interrupted rites were seen as direct offenses against Anubis. And the punishment didn't come as a loud, dramatic curse. It came in silence, recurring nightmares, the constant feeling of being watched, unexplained deaths inside the temples. The Egyptians believed Anubis didn't attack the body. He disoriented the soul while it was still alive. Another unsettling detail appears when we look at his iconography. Anubis is almost never shown in motion. He is always standing guard, because, according to some mystical interpretations, Anubis doesn't exist only in the land of the dead. He exists between worlds, an eternal observer of life, death, and judgment. Some later texts suggest something even more disturbing, that Anubis doesn't weigh only the hearts of the dead, but keeps records of the living. Every action, every intention, every lie we tell ourselves. All of it written down, waiting for the moment of the scale. And maybe that's why, even after the fall of ancient Egypt, his image never disappeared. It resurfaced in secret societies, occult symbols, and modern rituals that speak of spiritual judgment and passage between realms. Because the idea of Anubis never died. It just changed its name. Anubis is not a villain, but he's not a savior either. He represents something no civilization has ever managed to erase. The certainty that our choices matter. In the world of the living, we can deceive, we can hide, we can justify. But according to the ancient Egyptians, there comes a moment when there is no audience, no excuses, no escape. Just you, your heart, and the scale. Maybe Anubis was never just a distant god. Maybe he is the reflection of humanity's deepest fear. What if, after death, someone knows exactly who we were, without the masks, without the lies, without the stories we tell? When the final breath is taken, when silence settles in, when the eyes close for the last time, someone is waiting, and he never blinks. If you believe some legends hide truths too ancient to be forgotten, if you feel that certain myths are still watching humanity from the shadows, then you're already part of Urban Secrets. Leave a like to support the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss any forbidden stories. And comment below. Do you believe judgment happens only after death? Or does it begin long before that? Because maybe the scale is already moving.